Well, hello, my name's Christine and I teach at Stoke Lodge and I teach gardening. So I thought you might like to have a look at my own pond at home. We put this pond in about 9 years ago, starting from scratch. It's got a butyl liner in the bottom. It's about 18 inches, 2 foot deep in the middle with very sloping sides. And we made that deliberately so that we could have maximum wildlife potential inside the pond. So I'm just going to show you a few of the things that are in flower at the moment. So let's start with these lovely blue iris. These are Siberian iris, and they always make a fantastic show all at once. And they're really very easy to grow. They don't mind whether the soil's wet or whether the soil's a bit on the dry side. As we come down over here, down to the water's edge, we've got water avens, which I think are really sweet. They're a British native plant, and they seed themselves around, and they come up every single year. And they have really nice little frilly seed heads as well after they've gone over. So as we come around the edge of the pond, you can see we've got a margin that isn't mown very much because there are lots and lots of wildflowers in this little bit. So here, for example, we've got a sedge, which some of you might find a nuisance in your garden because it does get quite large, but I rather like its statuesque character and its droopy seed heads. And next to that, we've got some ragged robins, again another British native plant. They seed themselves around, they come up every year, and they're just so pretty and so full of joie de vivre. As we come around a bit more, we've got some ordinary rushes. I don't let them get out of hand because they'd be a real nuisance. More ragged robins, and in the middle of the ragged robins, we've just got one or two little bits of lady's smock just going over. I'm really keen on the lady's smock because it brings in the orange tip butterflies. As we look towards the water, we've got some little yellow water lily, not flowering yet, it's a rather sweet little thing. We've got some miniature bulrushes, which quite honestly are rather a nuisance, and I wish I hadn't put them in because they rather take over. In the middle of the pond, you can see at the moment just coming out some really pretty pink water lilies. I think we've got some white ones as well, they're not flowering yet. And towards the centre of the pond, a sort of island has formed made out of a plant called Pontidaria, which is lovely bright blue spikes of flower in July and August. I didn't really intend that to happen, but it just kind of happened, so I've let it go. And there are a few variegated iris growing in there as well. So as we come around the other edge of the pond, we've got hostas, which are looking quite good at the moment because the slugs haven't had a chance to have a go at them. But I wanted to show you this purple iris, which is another favourite of mine. And this is another Siberian iris, but this is one called Caesar's Brother, which has this magnificent purple flower. They're just beginning to come out, so they're a little bit later than the ordinary kind looked at just a moment ago. That clump was a huge clump last year, and I dug it up and divided it and planted it back again, which is why it's looking a bit more sparse than it did this time last year. So coming round the edge of the pond towards the jetty, got here Chinese apricot, which was extremely pretty back in February. And then as I get to the jetty, we've got some more water avens, lots more water avens, and a very pretty yellow iris, a pale yellow iris. This isn't the big yellow iris you see in lakes. That would be a bit too much for this pond. But a pretty little pale yellow one. The sad thing I noticed this morning is that the frost has taken the new growth on my beautiful fern that was just coming into leaf. So the new leaves down the bottom here, not too bad, but the ones that were vulnerable last night have gone really black and disgusting. So that's a tour around the edge of the pond and a bit of a look at some of the plants growing in it. We started off hoping it would just be for wildlife, but someone gave us some goldfish to look after, and unfortunately they bred rather enthusiastically. I think they're partly responsible for the fact that we don't seem to have many tadpoles. Despite the attentions of the local heron, they still seem to keep on breeding. But the good news is that just in the last few weeks, I've seen 3 or 4 newts charging about in the water, which I think is really encouraging. So together with the damselflies and the dragonflies, we get so much pleasure from this pond. If I could persuade you to have one, then I would.